What is up, you guys? This is Mini Superheroes Today.
And with the recent leaked news that we are getting a LEGO Marvel collectible minifigure series in 2021, I wanted to make a video with my predictions for what this series will include and honestly what it's going to be overall. Comparing it to the DC CMF that we got, I'm guessing that we're going to get 16 figures, although Series 21 did dial back to 12, even though, Harry Potter and DC, our other licensed themes have gotten 16, for this video, I'm predicting that we're going to get 16 figures. Now, with that being said, kind of modeling it off of the DC, I was looking at how many guys and how many girl figures there were, as well as just, the general theme. And because of that, I think that this theme is actually going to be based on comic books and not necessarily the MCU. I definitely don't think that it's going to be a mix of the two. For example, like a comic book Iron Man and MCU Ego from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I don't see that happening. I think it's either going to be all classic comic book versions or all MCU. So this video is going to be focusing on the idea that it's going to be all comic book versions. And with that being said, let's dive in and take a look. So unsurprisingly, I think that the first figure we would get in a classic Marvel CMF series would be a classic Iron Man. Now, as we go through these, I'll let you know on the screen where these images are from. Of course, this is a custom I built here on my channel, but I think that the actual one would have a more accurate helmet than what you see here, as well as dull molded legs, maybe even arms, but I think a classic Iron Man would be an absolute must. And if we're getting classic Iron Man, we've got to get classic Captain America. Now, this figure is a custom I found online from Minifigures UK Facebook page, and I think this is pretty accurate to what we would see. I think the helmet would be a little bit more like the Endgame Cap helmet we've been getting, but in this lighter blue color with the scale mail, the red, white, and blue arms. I think this is a great representation of what LEGO would probably give us if he were to be included in this series. Getting off the beaten path, I think that classic Ant-Man would be a shoo-in of a character to include. He's not exactly the easiest character to work into a classic Marvel set, and it's a great opportunity to get that classic Ant-Man headpiece, which really couldn't be used for any character but him. Like I said, I think he would get his headpiece, that iconic antenna helmet, as well as dull-molded arms and legs, probably pretty similar to the Incredibles from the Disney collectible minifigure series, and I think he'd probably come with a little ant accessory as well. Naturally, at number 4, I think we'd get a Classic Wasp. Now, I think we'd get this version of Classic Wasp, not like the first appearance. I also could see them not putting Wasp in the first series if they were planning to do a second, but since we don't know if there will be a second DC series, it's just too hard to say. With that being said, I think she'd get a new face print. I don't think they'd reuse an old one, and I think it'd be cool if she came with a little microfig Wasp accessory to go with the Ant-Man microfig that we got from the MCU sets. I think that'd be a really cool idea. Because we're winding back on all of these customs and looking at classic versions, I thought a first appearance Spider-Man would be very cool, kind of when he had the more black accentuations on his suit. What I like about this is it's something different, it's something we would never really get from LEGO otherwise, and we've gotten so many red, blue, and black Spider-Mans, the classic look, that I think going first appearance would be something really fun. Doesn't necessarily need to appear in a set, but that makes it perfect to appear in the LEGO Marvel collectible minifigure series. Here we're getting a little bit more modern and going with the Jane Foster Thor. Now, I feel like if we're building out an Avengers roster, we have to have some version of Thor in this grouping, and we've already got a classic Thor from the LEGO Marvel line of sets, so there wouldn't be a reason to do him again, so I think Jane Foster Thor would be a cool way to get this character and still include a version of Thor in this lineup. Now, the one you see here was made by my friends at Phoenix Customs, which they sent me to review. You can check that out on my channel, but honestly, I think LEGO would have to try to top what you're looking at here. This is a pretty incredible custom. She would have to have a dull molded helmet, of course, because Jane Foster Thor has her own unique helmet look, and I think they'd probably give her dull molded legs too. The CMFs tend to like to do that, especially the superhero ones. Now, I think a LEGO Marvel CMF series is the perfect time to get Daredevil as a figure. The reason I think he hasn't shown up in a LEGO set yet is because, well, he's a pretty violent character, especially after Netflix has rebranded him as being so, a violent and for a more mature audience. With that being said, a CMF is a perfect way to not have to put him in a set aimed at kids, but let us adult fans get Daredevil too. Not that Daredevil isn't for kids, but I'm getting off topic. I think Daredevil would come probably right as you see him here, straight out of the LEGO Marvel video game. Speaking of the LEGO Marvel video game, classic Black Panther would be such a cool look. Of course, the look from the video game would be pretty amazing to get as a figure. I don't know if I could really see them using this helmet mold, but I think getting a different helmet mold or, even a printed head with the cat ears that they always give Black Panther would be pretty cool. But I think, because we've got so many of the classic characters, it makes total sense to have Black Panther in here, and I think he'd be a really great inclusion. I would like to see some leg printing on him, though, even just for texture. Next up, I predict that we would get a classic Black Widow. Now, the one that you're looking at here is a custom that I made here on my channel, and I think that they would give her a new hair mold because, she had that big, vibrant red hair in the comics. And as you can see here, I took the ring pieces and put those around her wrists for her Widow Bite, weapons. I don't think LEGO would do that because LEGO doesn't technically tell you to take the hands off your figures, but it would be cool if they came up with some way to give her the Widow Bites, other than printing, of course. Now, this is a figure I can almost guarantee you that we would get if LEGO did a classic Marvel series. This is classic Hawkeye. The way that he has that awesome head-shaped mold with the mask and the helmet, and of course the vibrant blue and kind of magenta purple colors, they would definitely make this. I think he would definitely get a new helmet mold, as we were saying. I think he'd get dual molded legs, as you could see this figure had from the LEGO Marvel video game, and of course he'd get a bow and arrow. This would be an absolute shoe-in to create, and I definitely think we would get a classic Hawkeye. Considering we've only ever got Vision in his MCU version to date, I think we would get a classic Vision in this series. Well, I think we will because this series is very likely happening according to the rumors. In any case, I think what we would get is actually going to be pretty accurate to the custom you see here for my channel, of course with more accurate printing like having the diamond on the torso and whatnot. But I think the dual molded arms and legs are pretty accurate to what we would get, and I really have a good feeling that we will get a Vision in his classic form. Now, this one's off the beaten path again a little bit, but I think classic Nick Fury could definitely happen. The version you're looking at here was a little Easter egg appearance, I believe, from the LEGO Marvel video game, but they used the standard Loki head with an eye patch over top of it. Then, of course, that Bruce Wayne Widow's Peak hair with some gray on the sides of it. I think this would be a really easy figure to make, and while maybe not the most exciting one, he'd be awesome for army building to get lots of shield torsos. So I do think that this one is quite possibly likely. Getting a classic Scarlet Witch is a figure that I really consider as much of a shoo-in as maybe Captain America or Iron Man. I think this is a perfect opportunity to give us a figure like this. I think she would get a new head and hair mold because, of course, she's kind of got that face mask thing she wears that comes up over her forehead. I definitely think we would get something like that. I think that we would probably get like her swimsuit, jumpsuit kind of look as well, possibly dual molded legs to accomplish that, but I'm not 100% sure. But I do think she'd come with some little like translucent magic hand accessories. Definitely a shoe-in figure. I almost guarantee you they'll make this one, especially after the success of WandaVision. Now that we're into the magical corner of this collectible minifigure series prediction, I think we'd get classic Doctor Strange. As you can see by the LEGO Marvel video game, he'd be a pretty standard figure to make. Nothing too revolutionary, but definitely a cool one we would all love to have. I think he'd have his black and white hair, kind of similar to the first version of Doctor Strange we got from the LEGO sets. I think he'd come with some magic hand accessories, just like I said Scarlet Witch would. And I think he'd come with a cape with a big collar, like this one you can see here. In fact, I think he'd actually be pretty similar to the MCU Doctor Strange, just featuring that classic print. Kind of like Aquaman in the DC series. Pretty similar to the regular one, just a little different printing. I think a classic War Machine would be an awesome inclusion for this series. Now, we don't often see figures that you have like buildable elements with. As you can see here, this is a custom from my channel, and I built the guns that are on his back. With that being said, though, it is becoming a little bit more common. Like we had the kid you have to build the drone for, and the robot programmer girl from a couple of series back, so it's not unheard of. It's just a little rare. I think you'd get dull molded legs in addition to those back gun accessories, and I think honestly this would be a really great inclusion. And for our 16th and final included character, I think it'd be Stan Lee. I think it's an absolute shoo-in, and I really think we'd be guaranteed to get a Stan Lee. There's really no better way to include him in a set, and what a great way to pay honor to him. I would really hate if they made him like a Mr. Gold chase figure kind of thing, where like there's only a limited number of them, but I could honestly see that happening too. In case, drop a comment below and let me know if you think that these predictions are accurate, if you'd like to see these, if you have some additional predictions. I want to know everything you guys are thinking. As LEGO superhero fans, honestly, the announcement of this minifig series, or rather the leak of it, is maybe the most excited I've ever been for something from the LEGO Marvel line, and I'm just so excited to share in that hype with you guys. So drop a comment below, let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys on the next video. If you liked what you saw and you liked what you heard, feel free to click that subscribe button for more LEGO content coming in the near future. So, thanks for tuning in to today's video, and until next time, build on.